Oi, oi, frothers. Welcome to another fine Frothy Friday. I wanted to start out with something about the space I'm in and what I've put into the space. And I've been thinking about it because I've been popping on over. The other day was a bit rainy, so we went and bought a puzzle. Motherfucking druid puzzle. And what I was thinking about is when I'm working away, we all like to find things to procrastinate with, and procrastination can actually be an asset rather than a thing that you feel guilty about, because what you're actually doing when you procrastinate is taking your mind generally off the struggle of the problem that you've got at that time. You've been working hard, whatever you're doing, painting, whatever you're trying to create. It's really helpful to have a pattern interrupt. And in this case, I just turn around and I go and do a little bit of my puzzle and try not to get stuck there for too long. But what it's doing is kind of completely taking me away from where I've been. So it's really helpful. You can go for a walk, you go and make yourself a coffee and read some poetry or whatever your jam is. But I've got a bit of a bone to pick with this motherfucking druid puzzle. I'm channeling my buddy Miles in the UK because it's kind of how he would describe it. I actually never went to Stonehenge. What a terrible druid I am when I was there. It was only a stone's throw from where I lived in London. Maybe a bit longer than a stone's throw. But if we're talking about druidry and giants, giants, I assume, could throw stones a lot further than we could. So let's not say it's not a stone's throw. Let's just say that it's not a stone's throw for the humans. That's a bit random. But my bone to pick with Stephen Wilkes is you can see what he's done here, which is quite beautiful. It's a photo that's been taken, or multiple photos have been put together in Photoshop, or something similar. But he's left all these derricks in there taking photos with their phones. And I mean, I'm not totally against that, right? But why the fuck do we need to have beautiful imagery with people taking photos with their phones? There's one person with a DSLR, and that looks cool because when you got a DSLR, right? And I used to have one. This is before phones were cool. Actually, I've still got one. I just don't use it anymore because it's kind of obsolete. People are like this. And it's kind of like this cool, you see a photographer at a party and you're like, they're a frother. They're just like, I've done a few photography gigs where I just turned up with my DSLR to help a friend out, and people are just like, oh, it's the photographer. It's like, you feel a lot cooler than what you are. So that's cool. But all these motherfuckers with their phones out, I've said motherfucker way too many times, so I'm going to stop saying it now. They should have just been photoshopped out. He could have done that. Stephen, sort your shit out, mate. There's lots of cool stuff going on. There's looks like some fella's delivering a sermon. Another fella is dancing with his wife, we assume. There's some crows about, some people just pondering, That's what, especially if you've got a beard, that's what you'd be doing. Like when I go to Stonehenge, I'm not going to be taking all the photos. I'm going to make sure I'm not taking the photos with my phone. I'm going to take my DSLR, even though it takes a worse photo than my phone, because then the other people taking photos of Stonehenge won't have derricks in their photo of Stonehenge. Feels a little bit like Inception. Not quite. What else has been happening? Oh, etymology of froth. Does anyone know what etymology is? It's usually, well, it's not usually used, it's always used as the term for when you are investigating where a word has come from, the origination of the word. And in this instance, whenever I do a Finding the Frothers workshop, or pretty much most workshops now, because I use the term froth. I ran one yesterday, and it's just exciting, If someone's never heard the term froth within the context with which I use it, as being excited, triggering flow states, just being in a frothy mood. It's really cool to explain it. People seem to like it. And the etymology, I would generally talk about first being used in the 1400s as frivolous attitude or nonsense. I think it was started, if someone was being frothy, they were full of nonsense. That sounds very British. But we're having a British theme here today, We're having a British Derek theme. So, but then I talk more about the argument between the west coast of Australia and the east coast of the US surfing communities and whether it came from there or maybe it came from both. Maybe it dropped in at the same time, which can happen with creative ideas. Look up Elizabeth Gilbert's work on that, magic. Which is kind of cool, like to think about creative ideas because we all have them. And I hate those fuckers who say, I didn't say motherfucker, who say, oh, anyone can have an idea. It's whether you can, activate it or not that makes you good. And it's usually within a startup context, right? And maybe I'm just bitter because I've had quite a few startup ideas crash and burn. However, I feel like it's a beautiful thing to think about ideas as floating around. And you don't have to actually pick them up and run with them. If I did that, I'd never get anything done because I just feel like there's this random stuff just going through my head all the time. It makes you feel a bit crazy sometimes. And I lost my train of thought with the etymology stuff, but I was actually, thinking a bit more about froth. And so where did froth come from? And actually, it's all wrong. Froth came from, and it'll become apparent why froth came in a moment. But it's actually, I'm going to say it's from here. It may have come before Greek mythology times, but essentially the creator, Gaia, or the female creator of existence, with the male creator of existence, Uranos, which I want to say Uranus, but I don't think it is. I think it's Uranus. Anyway, they were basically, creators of all things. They had their sons, which were the Titans. You've probably seen the bullshit way that Hollywood has to really just make everything fucking sort of like sensationalized, but taking out all like the cool gnarliness of what the Greek gods actually did and how they showed up in the world or showed up in the other world. And essentially, one of the Titans, who was son of the two, his name was Chronos. And so he's got a whole nother yarn about, chronological time, etc. But anyway, this is my telling of the story. So Chronos cracked the shits one day. And so he was fucked off. So he went up to his parents and I don't know what his intention was at the time, but when he got there, they were making love. And so Chronos, all whipped up, the opposite of froth, like rage, chopped his dad's knob off. And chopped his dad's dick off while he was having sex with his mum. These are the parts that can't go in the Hollywood stuff, you see, because we just can't handle that. And Chronos just flung his dad's slug across the ocean. Now, some people are calling that a knoblob. Actually, no one's calling it a knoblob. I just wanted to say knoblob. Across the ocean, and semen or silver semen and blood and all sorts just made its way across all the oceans. And essentially what happened, this foam started to bubble up to the surface. Foam. And a lot of the threads when it comes to Greek mythology talk about how, you can have traumatic, horrible experiences or occasions that can then, spark more disaster. Or in this instance, after the destruction and the gnarliness, up sprung a beautiful head of hair out of the ocean, and then the beautiful face, not quite like mine, the female variety. And what sprung from this like horrendousness was the most beautiful thing that had ever been created. And what came out of the water was Aphrodite, the most beautiful woman ever to exist. You've probably heard of Aphrodite in songs, in movies. Probably there's a heap of brands called Aphrodite. I don't know, probably. And so the interesting part of Aphrodite's name is Afro, which is foam, or from the foam, I think, and Aphrodite, froth, foam, froth. So maybe that's not the strongest ever explanation of where froth came from, but I'd like to think that that's a pretty spectacular rendition of where the first frother occurred. The most beautiful woman in the world was the biggest frother, and she came from, this space where a lot of us come from, which is rage or anger. Hopefully we're not running around chopping our dad's dicks off. But that's just like all Greek mythology, whether it happened or not, and that's why it's mythology. It's not so much that it did happen or it did occur, it's the meaning that's important. And the meaning is the thing which is true for us now and that we can learn from. And what I'm learning from this is that while we might have that rage, we might have that anger, we might feel sad, we might, feel like doing something aggressive, because we all kind of have it in us. If we find a channel, if we find a puzzle, maybe not a puzzle, but if we find some way to release it in a healthy way, which isn't that aggression from this tale, but there's a transition that occurred in that story. And I think that's something that we can learn from, which is maybe out of the anger, rather than fully shutting it down or like trying to lock it in a box, we can channel it somehow. When I used to have rage, I would go to the gym, whereas before I'd probably go to the pub. And so the gym allowed me to sort of have that primal. What I know now is I'd probably go and do something more like wrestling or dancing or like whatever. And out of the back of that, you could potentially get this beautiful experience, and you could potentially become frothy. And so even on those days where I feel like there's no way I'm going to find some froth today, I lean on those kinds of stories in a weird, twisted way, and just think about, where's the alchemy in our existence, and how can we find beauty in amongst the gnarly and the twisted and the destructive and the et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that was a wild ramble. I hope you have a Frothy Friday. I didn't do a Frothy Friday last week, in case you were just hanging out for it, my 27 fans or so on YouTube, because I was frothing out on a property and I was having the frothiest time. I didn't want to be like 47% of the derricks in this picture and get my phone out and ruin my frothiness by spending 15 minutes on a phone, talking to a phone rather than talking to nature. Anyway, much love.